Thank you so much for joining us today on Connect and Collaborate, where we come together each day to introduce you to our network of business and community leaders and to discuss important issues that impact business in Colorado and the region. I'm Tammy Schaefer, your on-air producer, and today we're connecting with Dan Kuschell with the Genius Network. Dan is a speaker and an author, and he's joining us today to talk about in part, our goals for 2018. And Dan, we're so happy to have you. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, Tammy. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks so much. So, one of the things you mentioned to me as we were preparing for today's show is you want people to forget about setting goals. How are we supposed to get ahead then?
Well, as crazy as it sounds, I don't know if anybody else has found this to be true, but New Year's resolutions come and go, and I see a lot of people that set goals, including myself, that have done this. How many times have you set a goal and it was a fleeting goal, and then the harder you seem to go after it, the further away it seems to get. And I got tired of that process, and what I've now focused on, not only for me, but also I found this has worked really well with our clients, it's not about goal setting, it's really about goal achieving, right? And there's a big difference to be able to bridge the two to go out and accomplish great things. So, the number one principle would be to focus on what are you expecting to achieve this year versus what are you just setting, because setting ends up getting set aside, like we see a lot of resolutions that come and go happen regularly.
Yes. So we're still making your goals. It's just taking a little bit different approach of really thinking about how you're going to achieve it, how it's going to come to fruition, rather than just saying, yep, that's my resolution for the year.
Exactly. And so a great exercise to do this is, an old Tony Robbins exercise. It's something he brought up, Genius Network. I was the interim outsource CEO and a strategic growth partner for them. They were a client of mine. And we work with a lot of different clients, but a real great exercise is what we call the where are you going, how are you going to get there exercise, right? To bridge this gap to greater goal achievement versus just goal setting. So, and I'll give you the simple framework, Tammy, which is number one, where are you now, right? So you get the first progress, Dan Sullivan, who runs Strategic Coach, has a great quote. He says, the first progress starts by telling the truth. So where are you right now? And whatever, you're looking to do in your business, like where are you? How many clients do you have currently? What's your profits? What are your losses if that's the case? Get clear on where you are. Then the next step is, where do you want to go, right? So now you forecast, say, a quarterly, I like sharing and showing people, Tammy, to work in quarterly chunks, right?
Okay.
And then back it out of a year. So it could be a year focus, but broken down into smaller quarterly chunks. And then ultimately what has to happen weekly to achieve it. So it's where are you now, where are you going? Then anticipate how are you going to get there. Right? So you start thinking of the solutions ahead of time. What has to happen for this to be true? What resources, what tools, what connections? You bring up the theme of your show, connection and collaboration. Most of us have been taught the great lie, which is how to achieve something or what to do. And actually a faster way to do it is think of the who, not the how or the what. And so what resources, who has the solution to these things that could help you? So again, it's where are you going, how are you going to get there? And then lastly, that's really a strong driver is why do you want to achieve it? Tony Robbins has said for years, the greater the why, the greater the likelihood of accomplishing it. So what are the emotional reasons that you really are committed? Because there's a big difference between a wish and a commitment. But what are the reasons why you want to achieve this particular goal or these particular goals? So that's the short version of it, but ideally that gives a good framework right out of the gate.
Absolutely, and we'll discuss this further for the rest of this hour. But Dan, I want you to kind of introduce yourself to our listeners here. What's your background, and how did you come to being able to speak on this goal-setting subject?
Yeah, so short version is, if there is such a thing, with almost 30 years of experience doing this. I started my first company in 1992, Tammy. My dream as a kid actually was to play pro sports, pro baseball. It didn't work out. I had some injuries. Maybe it was lack of talent too, truth be told. But I ended up being introduced to direct response marketing and how you could take a message and put it in print and people would respond. And I got so fascinated with like the psychology of human behavior and how people respond, not respond, as well as like technology, like using direct mail, to fast forward to today using the internet and all these different wonderful tools we have. So I started my first company in 1992. I've since that time grown 11 plus companies, a handful of seven-figure, a handful of eight-figure companies. So I've had a certain amount of success. At the same time, I've had some failures. There's a couple that have been, at the end of the day, I buried a couple companies in my backyard because it didn't work. So I have a T-shirt of some failures along with some success, and now having coached, I think I've coached over 5,300 and some small business owners on building, growing, and scaling a business. It's something that I love to do. I love helping connect the dots, help business owners get unstuck, help people see the blind spots so that they can go out and have a bigger impact, a bigger reach, and a bigger contribution in the marketplace. And most of the stuff I found, there's a lot of great information, but what people want today is not more information. Heck, we need more information. We need more ideas. Like we need a hole in our head. What people are really looking for is a transformation. Exactly. And so what we do, our company really helps business owners get that next level breakthrough to be able to grow, to scale, and have a bigger impact, reach, and help their clients get bigger breakthroughs.
Wonderful. We're going to talk more with Dan Kuschell. He is a speaker and author, and we're talking today. We have this great opportunity to look at looking ahead, see what we can plan and do better in 2018. We're going to talk about those goals, getting ready to achieve them. We'll also discuss some of the biggest mistakes businesses are making and how to do better. Dan Kuschell, thanks so much for being with us. Stick with us here after the break. We will be right back with much more. For staying with us today on Connect and Collaborate. We are connecting today with Dan Kuschell. He was with BreakthroughX, and he is a speaker and author, and we're talking today about those goals for 2018. Dan, how do we approach them for our best results?
Well, yeah, I think one of the great simple ways to do it, Stephen Covey talked about the idea of begin with the end in mind. So sometimes though, if you're listening right now, have you ever found yourself in a place where you're like, well, that beginning with the end in mind sounds great, but putting out a 20-year goal plan or 30-year vision or any of these sorts of things gets a little complicated. So we feel there's a little bit of a simpler way. Instead of looking, say, 20 years out or even 10 years out, go out maybe 3 years and imagine what it would be like to be at your very best. And for your business, this would be things like, what is the culture like? If you could write the story of your ideal business, what would that culture be like? What would your clients say about you? Like, in fact, start writing, some of the testimonials, some of the references that people would give you.
Really?
Overall. What would your team actually say about you? Right? So these are a couple good reference points, Tammy, to start with. Another great exercise to do, and it's not that people haven't heard this before, but it's always a good time to check in, is, what are the values of your company, right? And not the values that you perceive that you want to live to, but truly that you are living on a daily basis. And many times that's going to come from it's the heartbeat of the owner most of the time, especially for small businesses, $50 million or under. So what are the top 3 to 5 core values? And, there's companies who do a great job of going out and showing people how to develop the values in their company. But a simple exercise, because our company is about simplicity, is, ask your team, what are the top 3 to 5 things you value most about the owner of the company? What are the top 3 to 5 things you value most about working here? And then go to your 5 best clients, not all of your clients, but your 5 very best clients, and ask them, what are the 3 to 5 things you value most? So if you have your values, you have described your ideal experience from your client's viewpoint. In other words, testimonials. You describe the ideal work environment. This gives a great base to build from. Now you can start projecting in and building in some numbers, like, what kind of revenue do you want to have? What kind of profit do you want to be generating as a business? Who are the clients you want to ideally be, as Dan Sullivan calls it, who do you want to be a hero to? In other words, your client. Because the hero that you have today may not be the hero you really want in 3 years. And what got us from here to there may not be the thing that gets us from where we are today, that next level. So those are a couple good frameworks to build from off the back of the where are you going, how are you going to get there exercise we talked just a little bit ago.
Yeah. I like specifically what you said is ask your employees, ask your clients how they see you, what they value about what you provide them. Because as you mentioned, I think we've seen this maybe more than once or twice, that some companies or some business owners have a different vision of of themselves than what they're putting out. Do you see that happen?
Oh, yeah, I see that. We see that happen all the time. A lot of times we're so close to it as the owner, and hey, I've dealt with this myself, running and building 11 companies, 3 of them not so good, is we get close to it, and so we want to project our own feelings into what we think people might say. And the other reason to do this exercise from our team's point of view as employees, also our clients, is we start to actually get the language they use to describe our business.
Yes. Which
is how we should be referencing it to others in our marketing and our communication and our emails, etc. Not I'll call it the technobabble.
Or corporate
right?
language type stuff, yeah.
Or the corporate language that we sometimes build in, right? We can really learn a lot from our clients and how to then present it to our potential clients by using the exact wording and languaging that they're giving to us. And that's a great, and you can do this, with a personal conversation. You can do this on a personal phone call. You can send out these simple survey that takes a few minutes using a platform like SurveyMonkey or even a Google Forms tool or Wufoo. It's so easy to get access to this information today.
That's a great idea.
Critical.
Sorry to interrupt. I think that's a great idea, is asking your clients, how do they describe you? When they're talking to somebody else, it's like, well, who I use for that service or what have you is this group, company, organization, whatever, because blank. And finding out what they say about you, that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, we find that, we had a client, for example, we took through our one-day program that we do. And, a lot of companies, they get themselves shoehorned into being labeled a certain way, right? And this particular client was frustrated because they were like, golly, we're not just a Facebook marketing firm. We're not just a Facebook agency. Right? We do so much more. And we went through our process, and there's more to it than we have time to cover right now. But ultimately, what our client came out of it, very similar, starting with what we just started with here, which is asking your clients, what would they say? What would your team say, etc. We gave that client a whole new identity that now positions them as the unique expert in the industry, right? And talking to this particular client, he said to us, I feel like we have a new identity, and I no longer feel that we're in the trap of being commoditized as just another Facebook marketer. Right,
not pigeonholed.
Agency. Yep, and that's what this type of exercise, when you really get focused on something like this and fall in love with becoming what some experts refer to as client-centric, it's a lot of fun. It reinvents your company. It rejuvenates your company. And it also, from our experience, can help companies get explosive growth, too.
So we're talking today with Dan Kuschell. He's a husband, a dad, a serial entrepreneur, and an angel investor. He's the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of BreakthroughX. He's helping business owners help connect the dots, see the blind spots, and get unstuck. Dan, I love what you just gave as that example of somebody like finding their identity. Do you have more examples of how this has been beneficial or really revealed something to a customer or a client of yours, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, a good example, for example, we have a process we call the SOS method, right? Because, as you're listening right now, you ever find yourself where, you want to help as many people as you can, and then sometimes you're spread too thin, and maybe you thought to yourself, golly, why can't I get more success? And there's a great quote that I learned early on from a guy named Gary Halbert, who's a direct response expert, and he says, there's no correlation between being good and getting paid, right? And it's frustrating, especially when you do good work for your clients or you provide great value to your clients, because sometimes we try to be too many things to too many people. In other words, we go a mile wide instead of a mile deep. And so the SOS method is a real simple acronym that we use in our company that I think is relevant to just about every business, which is solve one problem. That's the first S, solve one problem. Not 100 problems, not 10 problems, not 5 problems. What's the one problem you can solve better than anybody else?
Okay.
The second part of the acronym is O, offer one solution, essentially, to solve that problem, right? And then the third is serve one market, right? And get clear on what that is. And so, thinking about how can you put yourself, what if, as you're listening right now, what if you could be positioned as the category of one, considered the very best, the definitive expert in your niche, right? And a lot of times to, go deep in your niche is you have to, essentially narrow down to scale up. But narrowing down actually allows you to grow and be more profitable. And the SOS method is just a great way to be thinking about this, how to be able to do this. So one of the clients that, in many ways we utilize this with and saw this happen was a group called Genius Network, where I came in, basically as a contracted interim CEO for a handful of years. And Joe Polish, who's amazing, he's already immensely successful before I met him, and whether I would have teamed up with him or not, he was going to be immensely successful. It's just I was able to take some of the assets and kind of rearrange them to be more efficient. Joe went from having about 30 to 40 applicants per year for his high-level community called Genius Network, about 30 or so a year, and now he gets about 1,200 a year. So he's seen this hockey stick type growth because of getting clear on this type of messaging. So it's how do you take your message, go out to the marketplace, focused on that one, that one problem that you solve, offering that one solution and that one market. And so Joe was able to do that, and now has grown, the community by 4 times. He's now added an extra layer. He's got a program called Genius X, which essentially serves bigger, broader clients. It's a $100,000 a year program, has close to 30 people that are part of that. But I believe it started, one of the key fundamental pieces was this idea of narrowing down to scale up.
Wow. Yeah, because it's letting go of the idea that you have to be or can be all things to all people. You have to really find what your specialty, what your niche is, and strengthen it.
Yeah, and how frustrating is it out there? There's a lot of experts, and God bless them. They want to serve the market. They want to help people get their message out to the world. But they're out there running around saying, your first steps are things like creating podcasts and creating books and, being prolific in content marketing and social media and all these things around hustle. And there's some truth to it. But I find it very misleading because, like Joe is a great example. Joe offers essentially 2 main products. That's it, or 3 main products. He has an annual event where it's a $10,000 program. He's got his Genius Network, which is a $25,000 program for a year, and he's got about 230 people in that now. And now he has 100,000. So he's got essentially 3 core products.
Dan, we're wrapping up. I'm going to have you finish that up on the other side of the break. We're talking with Dan Kuschell, founder, chairman, and CEO of BreakthroughX. Stay with us. Glad to have you staying with us today here on Connect and Collaborate. And today we're connecting with Dan Kuschell. He's the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of BreakthroughX, where he helps business owners kind of find those blind spots and get unstuck. And Dan, I'm so glad to have you with us today. We started out talking about our goals. As we approach the end of the year, I'm sure everybody's looking forward to what can I do better next year? And we just left off. You were talking about one of your clients, Joe Polish, and how he's able to identify 3 main offerings that he's been able to excel at, right?
Yeah, if as you're listening right now, if you've ever struggled with, like what should I offer, and there's certain experts out there, they teach to have a whole variety of different products and services. Now, there are a couple different types of businesses, of course, where having a lot of inventory or product categories or SKUs really does matter.
Mm-hmm.
But in all of that, one of the things I'd challenge you to do, let's say you have a business that has a lot of SKUs, a lot of different products or services on the shelf, is narrow down and look at your results in the last year and identify where have most of the sales come from, right?
Okay.
And you'll probably find there's 20% of your products or services that produce 80% of your results. And what I'd encourage you to do is then focus your messaging, focus your marketing, focusing your efforts on those 20% producing 80%. So that would be step one for an existing business. If you're more of a new business and you just haven't hit momentum, typically this will be very applicable, Tammy, to most businesses that are $2 million a year or under. And that's really looking at your business this way. What would have to happen if your business could only offer free stuff and high-priced stuff, right? Think about that as you're listening right now. And it's a little bit of this is another exercise to get outside the box just a little bit. But what if your business had to be operated as free stuff and then high-priced stuff? What would it look like then? Well, let me give you, just a little bit of a blueprint to be able to follow. And, here's something to be thinking about, too. Most businesses don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. As the whole Allstate commercial suggested. It's amazing how many businesses or business owners, Tammy, that I talk to or we talk to as a company, we go, do you have a marketing plan blueprint in place for the next year for your business? And they go, well, no. And they don't even know where to start with that. They're like, I don't even know what to do with that. And that's where a company like ours can come in and help somebody create their marketing plan blueprint or their marketing calendar blueprint for the year, and other tools that go along with it. But part of this is pulling out of the marketing plan blueprint. So what if you had to be free or high priced? Well, let me give you three parts at least to be thinking about. So number one would be a core...
I'm trying to picture what a free product and then your high-priced products would be.
Yeah, and so the number one area would be, identifying, okay, what is your core offering going to be? And let's consider this a fairly high-priced program, somewhere in a $2,000 to $5,000 range, right? It could even be like Joe Polish's. His core offer was and is a $10,000 program, right?
Okay.
But what if your core offer, instead of a lot of, smaller items, $30, $40, $100, $200 type programs or products or services, what if it had to be a $2,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 to $10,000 program or service, right? That was your starting point with you and your business, right? What would have to happen for that to be true? Now, here's what a good core offer will do is it sets up the ability for people to go deeper with you. So now you have your core offer. If you can picture the next step up with you is now what you'd call your maximizer offer. This is essentially where people are getting, much more personalized support from you. Perhaps this is where they get a greater access to you and or expertise. Mm-hmm. They can go deeper. And we also have found that with a good core offer to a maximizer offer, usually you have the ability to charge up to 2 to 3 times or more for that maximizer offer than your core offer. So if your core offer is, say, anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000, and it's basically 2 to 5 times that, you can do your own math to figure it out.
Okay.
Joe Polish, so coming back to that example we left off with before the break, Joe has his core offer, which is a $10,000 annual event, and he focuses on a very specific market, going back to our previous segment of the SOS method, solve one problem, offer one solution, serve one market, access to a community, access to the ability to be around people who are really looking to get to that next level, contribution and collaboration. They attend the annual event, and if they want to go deeper, they take advantage of his maximizer offer, which he calls the Genius Network Program. And that Genius Network Program is a year-long. It's $25,000. So, it's a little more than double the price of the core offer. So, for example, over the last 4 years, each year, for the last 4 years, he's averaged about 100 people that are non-members that will attend his annual event. Of those 100 people, on average, about, I'm using rough numbers here, about 60 to 70 people decide to go deeper and want to be a part of the Genius Network program. And now he has, out of the whole community, about 20 to 30 people that want to go even deeper and have more personalized access and are part of his higher level program called Genius X. Now, what do you do if you have people that you'd love to serve, but they maybe just can't afford it? You might be saying that to yourself. So let's speak to that elephant in the room. Mm-hmm. That's where the third offer. So it's your core offer, you have your maximizer offer, then you have what we'll call the downsell offer, right?
Okay.
And so this is a way to still engage members or clients with your products or services, but do it in a way that is just smart for your business, right? In other words, again, dream come true scenario. We shared this earlier, Tammy. The idea of who do you want to be a hero to? Okay. I can't tell you, and maybe you with the experts you've had on your show here, there's a lot of people I talk to who don't even really like the clients they have.
No. Oh, no.
Right, which is sad, right? It's sad but true, because sometimes we get in a business we don't even want anymore. Well, there's a way to re-engineer it, recraft it, rejuvenate it and bring it to life and be that thing that we love, be the thing that is, sets us on fire, that we're on purpose about, gives us meaning and purpose and all those sorts of things. So the downsell offer is a way to get people started, connected to your community, where you have the ability to work with them, support them, and it almost becomes an incubator into your core offer, into your higher maximizer offer. So, again, using an example, with Joe Polish, for example, he has a program that's called the Business Blueprint program that I helped install and build with the company. Okay. And that program is a smaller program. It's a small couple-day event, a 2-day event that people can attend for, about $3,000 to $5,000. And they get they walk out with a marketing plan blueprint. They walk out with a marketing calendar blueprint, marketing tools, etc., to build and grow and scale. And the people that Joe serves love him for it, right? Because they get the ability to get access to a lot of the tools that are being used in these other high-profile programs that basically they're getting that access to. And they one day want to be a part of the bigger thing that Joe offers. Now, we see this happen in a lot of business. One of our clients is in the stem cell business, right? And so, this is another example. So his core offer is to offer a complete done-for-you service where they do the marketing and they provide a service for stem cell therapy as another service to their business. And they handle it all for them, including the done-for-you marketing that a doctor or clinic can install. Now, this is a higher premium level service. Sure. And this is the core offer. And if they can't work with them, there is the downsell offer for something like, some basic marketing and advertising that they would help them with, with templates and resources. So it allows them to stay connected if they can't afford this higher end program. And then they offer a deeper, more intimate program, which is fully customized software and all these different, bells and whistles that go with it. So that's another example. We see this, with clients in the HVAC industry. Anyway,
right, so they have a way to lay it all out to provide exactly what they need. We're talking with Dan Kuschell. He is co-founder, chairman, and CEO of BreakthroughX. We're going to talk, when we come back, about the 3 biggest mistakes businesses are making. Stay with us. Connect and collaborate, and staying with us, we're talking with Dan Kuschell. He's the co-founder, chairman, and CEO of BreakthroughX, working with business owners to kind of get through anything that's holding them back, right, Dan?
I would say so. Almost anything. Almost anything.
Help to identify at least where they're stuck. And one of the things, speaking of being stuck, we're going to talk about the 3 biggest mistakes businesses make. How do you narrow it down to 3 mistakes? I hate to suggest that there's so many that everybody could make, but how do you pin it down to 3?
Yeah, I would say, there may be more, right? Sure. But I find there's 3 very common mistakes that business owners, let's face it, there's some shocking statistics out there. 95% 5 out of 100 businesses won't be around in 3 years, right?
Wow.
1 in 10,000 businesses, according to McKinsey research, 1 in 10,000 companies will reach 10 million a year, right? I believe only 3% of businesses, according to Department of Labor, will be $1 million business. And those are sad because, let's face it, small business drives the economy. It creates jobs. I mean, there's so much good that, what we do as business owners and entrepreneurship. And so what frustrates me is the struggle, the failure, et cetera. And what I see, Tammy, are the most common 3 reasons for failure. Is 1, most businesses get themselves into a Me Too category. They're like everybody else, and there's derivatives of this. The other one is, let's try to be the best at this thing. And I think one of my good friends, Sally Hogshead, what she says about this that just I think hits the nail on the head, which it's better to be different than better.
Oh.
And that's so important because everybody's out there promoting they're better than this and better than that and better than. Well, what if you change that? Because everybody's going that way. Why not shift it how you're unique or how you're different?
Okay.
And just that little tweak in our messaging and our marketing and communication makes a huge impact. So it's number 1, it's Me Too. Number 2 is client selection. We've alluded to this throughout the show, actually, which is, there are some people that get into a business and then after time they've built up a client base and they look at their clients and go, I don't even really want these clients or like these clients or what have you. So what do you do? And, we believe that comes down to the client selection that someone has, right? And then the number 3 thing is not having a sustainable, predictable mechanism to generate the ideal client. Right? In other words, it's based on the owner usually, their personal charm, their personal hustle, their ability to go out and beat the pavement and enroll clients, right? It's based on referrals, and all those are great, and you can build a couple $1 million company with that type of effort, but how great would it be to have actually a predictable, automated, systematic method to create ideal clients? Right, so it's those 3: the Me Too factor, client selection, and then an automated, predictable client generating system. So what we do...
Yeah, I want to know how you create an automated client generator.
Well, there's a lot to it, but the short version is, we've hit on a little bit. So here's a couple frameworks to be thinking of. We talked about the idea of the model a little bit earlier, having a core offer, right? Having a maximizer part of the offer and having the downsell offer. There's so much confusion in the marketplace today that what I would recommend most businesses look at is really how can you create a method to have clients that are pre-qualified, pre-motivated, predisposed, and ready to do business with you, right? And this is marketing, right? Like, what can you do to set up marketing for your business, right? And the messaging for your marketing. Because we all have marketing. The difference is some people with their marketing, it's like football to a degree, where a ball gets kicked off from one end of the field to the other. You take it at the goal line, and you run it at the goal line, you run it about 8 yards, and then you get hammered, and now you've got 92 yards to go, a field position, right? That would be an example of bad marketing. You got a lot of field to make up. In other words, that's where sales has to kick in, right? And so there's a combination of the sales side of this and the marketing side of this. Another example with effective marketing is you catch the ball at that goal line and you return it out about 80 yards. Now you get tackled, and now you only have about 20 yards to put it in the end zone, which means you don't have to have as much selling going on. And here's the key part to it. How can you create a buyer's culture or a buyer's model today instead of a selling model today, right? What would have to happen, right? So technology gives us the ability to do that. It could be as simple as setting up a page to get people to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm interested in what you have to offer, and learning more. And then driving them to an educational-based, say, video. about your service, about your products. And then, instead of trying to sell it to them right there on the spot, you just ask them to raise their hand again to get into a conversation with a potential, with that potential client with a team member.
Okay.
Right? And you can do this in a couple different ways. It can be what some people would refer to as an application model, depending on the product or service. But we've seen this, I've seen this with numerous clients that we've installed this with a gal a handful of years ago. And she, essentially was a teacher, and she wanted to build a brand around her name and what she did. And so what we did is, we basically built a page that described her and what she did and her company did. And then people had to fill out an application to qualify to work with her. And so it basically, identified who they were, what their goals were, what they wanted to accomplish, some of the right fit kind of categorical things, where they were at in their business. They filled out the application, and then one of her team would speak to them.
Okay.
Right? And she ultimately, using that model, we helped her build a multi-million-dollar a month model. Right? With that simple
incredible
type of approach. Joe Polish, I talked about Joe a little bit earlier with Genius Network. He was getting about 30 to 40 candidates per year based on his personal hustle, his personal charm, his personal networking out there. We put an advertising model in place, driving to a model like I'm describing. It was a page where people would raise their hand, opt in. Yeah, I want to know more about, what it is you do. Mm-hmm. Then there was an application to go deeper, to learn how it could work, and then there would be a personalized conversation with a team member, and now the company gets about 1,200 applicants a year. Of the 1,200 applicants that come in, about 300 of them are right fit. Of the 300 that are a right fit, they have conversations with about 120 to 150, and they enroll about 80 to 100 a year through that model.
Okay.
Right. So it's creating a mechanism that you do what I think Gary Halbert has described as sift, sort, and screen to create a culture of right fit clients that are pre-motivated, pre-qualified, predisposed, and ready to do business with you.
Wow.
And this is where there's a lot of misunderstandings too, Tammy, about what is sales, what is marketing. And I know we're going to be wrapping up here in a second, but selling is what you do when you have someone on the phone or face-to-face with you who is pre-qualified, pre-motivated, pre-interested, and ready to do business with you. And marketing is what you do to get them on the phone or face-to-face with you. And so you combine the two, a good marketing system with a good selling system, right? It turns it into a buyer's culture, like Starbucks. You're not sold into Starbucks. You're not sold into Apple. You buy it. And so what if you, as you're listening right now, you could create an environment, a culture, an experience where people buy from you. And that's what we help companies, clients do. And ideally, you got a couple tips to be able to do that yourself following what we share.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dan Kuschell. We actually have about a little over a minute left. And we started out the conversation talking a little bit about goal setting and whether that's the right strategy. As we're wrapping up the end of 2017 here and starting into a new year, what tips can you give people here in the remaining minute of maybe some things to consider as they approach the new year?
Well, what I would say is, identify, what do you want to achieve, right? I would follow the framework we taught. Where are you going? Where are you? Where do you want to go? How are you going to get there? Focus in on your client selection process. Develop your version of a client accelerator method, right? Nice. Of developing pre-qualified clients. And if you want to go deeper with this, we actually have a series of education-based webinars and on-demand training that we offer, and you can get access to those at championbusinessblueprint.com. That's championbusinessblueprint.com.
championbusinessblueprint.com. Thank you so much, Dan Kuschell, for joining us. And thanks for listening to Connect and Collaborate. We're glad to have you along as we wrap up 2017 here. And Dan, thanks so much for being with us. We really appreciate all of your great advice.
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you. Bye.